to infinity and beyond.
This is me. This is how I win.
Were you rushing or were you dragging? Answer!
You're a wizard, Harry.
Say what again? Say what again? I dare you.
No, I am your father.
Hasta la vista, baby.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
And here we go.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back inside the film room. Zach Owens here with Mr. Johnny Sobchak. Johnny, my friend, welcome back. It's been a while since we last potted.
It's been a good while, Zach. How are you doing?
I'm good. This is my last podcast as a 23-year-old. By the time our sweet, sweet listeners are hearing this, I'll be an old man.
Well, I guess this podcast isn't going to last much longer, is it, Zach?
Are you saying I'm about to die? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, if you're an old, you might turn to dust right on the spot, bro.
Thanos got me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so big birthday tomorrow. Other than that, nothing really popping for me. Just this podcast, man. I'm excited to be back. We're a little late here, coming at you on a Wednesday morning instead of a typical Monday morning. But we're going to make up for it with a ton of great stuff.
Yes,
We've got a big slate of news because we were delayed. We have even more news to talk about, to share our wisdom about. And we're coming at you after a busy week of movies with what we would say, I don't know if it's the best one, but definitely the most talked about one from the foursome that came out. And that is Borat Subsequent Moviefilm. We are reviewing Mr. Sacha Baron Cohen's latest shenanigans on this podcast today.
Yeah, it's certainly making waves, been in the news a lot over the last almost week or so now. I just revisited you had seen Borat before or no?
Nope. That was my first time, so I watched that like 2 days before the new one came out. I'd seen scenes, obviously, but never all of it.
I hadn't seen it since I I won't go too much into it right now because we're going to get to that later. But I did revisit it, saw the new one, showed them both to my girlfriend as well. Got to get that reference in there real quick. And she actually loved them probably even more than I did, which was a pleasant surprise. I didn't want to force her to watch anything she was going to absolutely hate. But yeah, no, it's been a wild week for Sacha Baron Cohen. And of course, this is coming after the Trial of Chicago 7 release a couple weeks ago.
Sasha season, baby.
It is Sasha season. That's great for him. I love that guy. But yeah, it's been a wild week, and with not only the releases, I mean several like kind of key releases from streamers in particular, but just some big news popping off and some big news on our home front with regards to some of the people who've been here before and contributed and are contributing now. Zach, you want to feed our listeners that good news?
Yes, the great news. For those of you who have tuned in before, a couple weeks ago, we had our good friend Josh Martin on once again as a guest. And if you've been missing our voices, maybe you've filled it in with his voice, because Josh, through the Inside the Film Room Podcast Network, has launched his own podcast called Revisiting the Golden Age. It's a journey through classic Hollywood with Josh, and each episode features a special guest. So for those of you out there who are either film lovers, cinephiles of like all those classic movies, he goes from the 1930s all the way through the 1960s. If you didn't know from what you heard from him, he knows what he's talking about. So if you are a fan like him or you want to get into some stuff like that, he's serving up some great recommendations and analysis with special guests. That's Revisiting the Golden Age. It's wherever you listen to Inside the Film Room, you can find it there. Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, what have you. Go subscribe to that, rate and review. It's a great podcast. We got 3 episodes out. Jake Lawler has been on 1 episode. We got some other great guests as well. Johnny and I will be on episodes coming up
Yes.
soon. So I'm excited. It's been great listening to that. And for me, as any listener knows, I'm not the old-timey film expert. So it's been very enlightening, and I'm excited to kind of take my own attempt to compete with it, not compete, but to hold my own with his knowledge as we break down something coming up in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, I am super happy with Josh launching that. I'm proud of him, and he was really passionate about it and like took the initiative and made it happen. So
He was like, "Hey, can I?" That was after we after we recorded our episode of the draft that he was on.
yeah,
He was like, "Oh, that was so much fun. I'd like to do something like this. I have an idea." And then like the next day sent me like a 2-page written report, schedule, everything, like had it all down pat. And I was like, he's like, all you have to do is just post the file. I'll do everything and send it to you. And you just have like the server, the podcast host. And I was like, it's easy for me. I'll do it for sure. So he's been taking a ton of initiative with that. And it's really showing the passion there and the quality of the content that he's putting out, that we're putting out through that. So again, revisiting the golden age, go subscribe. You won't regret it.
yeah, and I'm really excited to be on that eventually. I listened just the first couple episodes have been really. I studied a little bit of film in college, and I am easily outmatched by Joshua Martin's knowledge. So it's fun for me to learn some new things and kind of expose myself to some other things that I haven't been able to visit yet. On the other side of Inside the Film Room, we have something happening at the Film Fest 919, which is in Chapel Hill, has been ongoing for 2 weeks now, I think, Zach?
Yeah, they started mid-October, so this is week 3, I believe, cranking up this coming weekend.
Yeah, and the former co-host of Inside the Film Room podcast, which I took over from, is Jake Lawler, and he is returning. The Sun returns, Return of the King, if you will. He's coming back from his beautiful spot in LA where he's working now and doing very well, and coming back and debuting his new short film, Good Samaritans, alongside his brother Connor Lawler, who is a student at the University of North Carolina School of the Arts. And they wrote it together. They acted in it together. And
produced it together.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see who's the director on this one. Nick
I don't know how to say his last name. I apologize. Stathopoulos, I believe.
Greek, so,
but he's the director, and he's an aspiring, similar to Jake and Connor, both aspiring writer director. So it's I was able to actually visit the set just driving by as they were filming one day. But I have not seen it yet. I'm excited to I'll be up there and get to reunite with Jake, hopefully, and check it out. So that's very exciting. That is on Thursday night, the 29th. They're opening up for the Mel Gibson movie Fat Man, which is written and directed by another pair of brothers. So kind of coming full circle there, that hopefully they'll be eventually debuting a feature film at a film festival.
Yeah, it's almost like they're the same movie. It's almost like the Mel Gibson Jake Lawler comparisons could just go on for.
Oh gosh, don't do that to Jake.
I can't wait to hear Jake's reaction to that. But, yeah, so no, it's very exciting. Super proud of all those guys and all the work they're doing, and certainly can't take the credit for any of that. But the final thing we have going on inside the film room just recently is a very fun, very cute, a very green giveaway. Please fill in the viewers or listeners rather.
They could be watching on YouTube as the bar
true.
scrolls across.
I felt like
screen.
I was doing like an infomercial delivering the green giveaway.
No, so we've got it in honor of Mandalorian Week, Season 2 coming out, first episode, a couple days from now on Friday, the 30th. So we are giving away our very own Baby Yoda plush toy, the child. It's like I don't know exactly the measurements of Baby Yoda, but this is like the 11-inch. It's got the solid head, the plush body, so he can stand up. You can put him around. You can sit him at the dinner table with you, hide him around your house. it's funny if you go to Amazon and look at like the reviews, they have photos of him just like in a car seat in their car. They're like people that take him way too seriously. But if you win it, you can do whatever you want with your baby Yoda. So all you have to do there's two options. You can either follow and retweet on Twitter, or you can like and tag people on Instagram. So either one, just go ahead and get the word out there to increase your chances of getting baby Yoda. So we're ready for Mandalorian, man. I'm excited to give it away, even though as I get him and he's sitting in my room, I'm like, maybe I should just keep this guy. He's a cute little cuddly guy. So somebody's going to have to take him away from me.
So yeah, that's tough to part. I mean, we know that from Mandalorian. So with the Mandalorian himself refusing to give up the child.
Exactly. This is the way.
This is the way.
Again, at Inside Film Room on Instagram or Twitter, go ahead and enter that chance to win. Very fun prize there.
Awesome, Zach. What do you have to hop into here?
Well, I guess we can go ahead and get straight into news. We kind of had a nice little chat already, so our introduction is complete. Let's do this. I've been getting ready to talk about some big news for a while since, like we mentioned earlier, it's been about a week and a half since the last time. So we've got this. It actually worked out very well that the news we have is kind of broken down into some different subcategories today. So First off, we are starting off with some HBO news. And one of these, well, I guess we're both excited about both of them. But I would say that one is more up Johnny's alley and maybe one more my alley. But I guess we'll start with mine. We'll go with, not to take anything away from you because you love this as well. But I guess I've just been on it longer. But that is Euphoria. We had some rumors. Zendaya had given us a hint maybe that we could be getting some bridge episodes after season 2's filming was delayed because of the pandemic. So now we know for sure 2 bridge episodes are coming to hold fans over until season 2 is available. The first one is hitting HBO on Sunday, December 6th at 9 p.m. It'll be called Trouble Don't Last Always. And HBO released this information that it'll be tackling the aftermath of being left by Jules at the train station and relapsing for Rue. The first episode, it'll follow her as she celebrates Christmas with her family. First off, just thrilled that we're finally getting something. Anybody who listens to this knows how much Johnny and I both have adored Euphoria. So to kind of have something to hold us over, I'm interested to see what it means though. Is this going to be, because they made a note, everything was done with COVID protocols in mind or whatever. So it's did they go out and film this? They said that it's just Zendaya and Coleman Domingo, who was her mentor in season 1, kind of at the rehab meetings. But I don't know, are they using footage that wasn't used in season 1? Is this going to be over Zoom? Is this actually Malcolm and Marie style filmed very safely? I don't know what to expect.
I think it's going to be pretty legit. I mean, we don't really know for sure. I saw an image online. It was on Tumblr, actually. This was a while ago. This was around the time that Zendaya won the Emmys. And it was her and Hunter Schafer and Sam Levinson. And they were out on the street together, and they were in costume, I think, and they were wearing masks. So I'm not sure what the plan is. That doesn't seem.
Does Euphoria take place during the 2020 timeline? Yeah. Are they going to address the pandemic?
Yeah, that might have been in between takes or something. I mean, who knows? But this does sound like it's maybe not related to that, and it sounds like it might be very much its own standalone thing. I'm curious, is it just going to be these 2 characters? Is it going to be a single location? Did they say how long this episode is going to be? I can't remember if it was an hour.
They didn't say anything on the press release that HBO released. So
we hope it's an hour. The more the merrier, especially for a Christmas episode. And no, I couldn't be more excited. I mean, when I have my notifications on for Zendaya. This was mainly for when Dune stuff was going down. But I got the notification, I looked, and the first thing I saw was the teaser image that they released alongside
the eye photo.
And it was, I'm not sure if it's going to be a shot from the episode or if it's just an image that they're associating, with these new bridges that they're doing. But yeah, it was beautiful. I mean, it's, Jules's eye, it seems like, and then Rue's reflection in the eye. And I just can't wait. I mean, as you said, I recently watched this show, much more recently than you, for the first time. Then I rewatched it just a week or two afterwards. So still very fresh, still very excited, and I am dying to see more. And we know season 2 is a ways away because they still have to film it and get all that stuff done. And with COVID going on, and every production kind of has to go at its own pace. But this is a really cool thing they're doing for the fans, and I think everyone's really happy with the team behind this show and HBO, and I'm super excited. It's not that far away now. So
I'm curious how they're going to handle it, because they gave this release and gave all this information about episode 1, December 6th, 9 p.m. But then it said second episode is not, will be released at a later date, something along those lines. So I'm it's not like they're dropping. It doesn't sound like it's going to be, okay, this Sunday, then next Sunday,
No,
it's going to be
not.
because we've still got a ways to go until season 2. So is this going to be something we get the first episode December 6th and then the next one in February?
Yeah.
I wonder how long this bridge is that we're going to be on.
Yeah, definitely interesting, because we know in the first season, it was basically starting in the end of summer. It was the beginning of a new school year. And so it took us, I think, basically through the first semester, because that dance in the last episode, I think, was supposed to be a winter formal. And so you would assume that's December or January. So yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how this falls. This Christmas episode, being where it is, falls in line with what the plot has established so far. So maybe, who knows, maybe the second bridge episode will be a New Year's type thing, or maybe it'll be a Valentine's type thing. They'll do that, release that more in January or February, like you said. Definitely exciting. I can't wait. And this is a very, very nice Christmas present to hold over the Euphoria fandom.
Yeah, I'm going to have to get a rewatch in before this, because I watched it back last year and then haven't revisited it since. So I've been meaning to get around to it, and this is just kind of the push that I needed to get that started. But other than Euphoria, there's some other HBO news that's coming. I don't want to say soon because it's probably a ways off, but Johnny, go ahead and let the people know.
Oh man, this is the big one, ladies and gentlemen. Denis Villeneuve. That's pretty much all you have to say, right? But Denis Villeneuve and Jake Gyllenhaal, who both worked together on Enemy and Prisoners back in 2013, they are re-teaming. This is something that had been rumored for a while. It's something that they had both expressed interest in doing, working together again. And the project they're doing is one that had been previously reported as a film adaptation of Joe Nesbo's novel, The Sun. That was something I think a lot of people had been thinking he might do after Dune, because, Blade Runner 2049 was just such a huge undertaking, and Dune, again, is a massive, massive project with not only just this first film, but then, of course, there is a second film to be done, hopefully. And whether or not this will be attempted in between, it might be easier to do, because as we all know, Dune has been delayed almost a full year. It's now set to release on October 1st, 2021. So maybe he finishes pre-production or post-production on Dune, and because it was supposed to be ready for Christmas, and that was something that they were on track basically along the whole way, even with COVID going on. So maybe he finishes by January, and he's like, "Hey, let's go do The Sun," and they can make that in the spring or over the summer, and then he can get back into marketing and promoting Dune in the fall. But this is a really exciting project. It sounds very dark, sounds very dramatic, more in line with something like Prisoners or Enemy, which they, of course, did together. And even something maybe like Sicario, which is more grounded. It's not sci-fi. It's not more fantastical like his more recent work. But the log line for this is Jake Gyllenhaal's character, Sonny, is a heroin addict in prison, but also somehow the center of an entire infrastructure of corruption under Oslo's crime overlord. Oslo, for those of you who don't know, is the capital city of Norway. So this is going to be a Scandinavian.
I'm curious if it'll actually be there, or if they'll do an American interpretation of it.
That's a good question, actually. I think I had just assumed that they were going to actually do the Scandinavian route. Maybe that's
I don't know. Like
because
I haven't read the book, so I don't know how how integral that is to
that
the actual
location
subject
is.
matter.
Yeah.
But
No,
go,
it's a good
continue
point.
on.
That's a good point. And I think maybe I had assumed mostly because honestly, when I hear of this kind of story, this dark, gritty Scandinavian location and this crime thriller drama, the first thing that came to my head was the girl with the dragon tattoo. And of course, David Fincher and Rooney Mara, and Daniel Craig, they went to Sweden. They made that film basically true to what the original novel was, and that was written by a Swede. So yeah, but apparently he's in prison, and his father had committed suicide years prior, and his father was a cop, and I guess he got caught up in some political turmoil. But then at this time when he's in prison, Sonny has a revelation. He finds out this shocking news around the circumstances of his father's apparent suicide, and then he escapes and begins to hunt down those responsible. And Deadline also reported something about the fact how Sonny can't recall his past to some extent.
It has some like Jason Bourne vibes as well, especially with
I've
like
seen
an Eastern European setting.
Yeah, and I think that's something that was actually reported on. Yes, here in the Deadline article, it says that Jake Gyllenhaal, upon reading it, he quickly moved to get the rights for this, and he said that it's reported that the potential for a franchise like Bourne is in this. So that's,
I know there are multiple books from this author from Nesbo. I went to immediately after hearing this news, I went and like looked it up on Amazon. I almost ordered it, but instead put it on my birthday list. So we'll see. But I'm definitely gonna try and read this before. We've got plenty of time, it sounds like. But
yeah,
I'm excited to kind of read this and just see, similar to how I did with Dune, like what I expect, and then see how it's gonna what Denny's gonna do to bring it to the screen. But I know we know this kind of relationship between Jake and Denny, like you mentioned. We know the through Dune, the connection to HBO, to Warner Media. So that's an exciting, and then the Dune shows that are going to be coming to HBO as well. So they have a healthy relationship there as well.
And just a couple little kernels of interesting info. Like I said, they had been trying to work together again for years, Villeneuve and Gyllenhaal. I guess Jake actually gave Villeneuve the book to read, and he read it in one night. It's like 500 pages long, so that's no small feat. And I guess Gyllenhaal was on the set of Stronger when Villeneuve called to like emphatically say, yes, like we absolutely have to do this. And that was in Stronger came out in 2017. So this was early 2017 or late 2016 when they were actually deciding they wanted to make this. And that was, I think, shortly after when the report about them doing it as a film was reported. And now we're getting this cool HBO limited series. Villeneuve is reported to direct. It's unclear if it's going to be, he's going to direct like the first episode and then maybe a couple others and like some other people are going to fill in. But I would expect with someone who is so singular as Villeneuve and who's a very strong visionary in a lot of ways, I think a limited series is probably 8, 9, 10 episodes at the most.
Some HBO stuff is even like 6. So
yeah,
it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, you're right. I think that's something that we could see here, and I think they said even that they thought the series style would work better than a film, just because I guess there's probably a lot to cover with backstory and things like that. So I could see him doing all of them, similar to Jean-Marc Vallée directed all the episodes of Big Little Lies season 1, and he directed all the episodes of Sharp Objects, and those were both HBO limited series as well. Of course, until they went and decided to do more Big Little Lies. But this is a huge opportunity. I think it's really cool for Denis Villeneuve and Jake Gyllenhaal. And the kicker to all this is Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy, who are the masterminds behind HBO's Westworld series, are helping produce this limited series as well. So lots of brilliant people involved. I think the material sounds awesome. I think it sounds perfect for this group. And it's just gonna be interesting to see how quickly they develop it, how many episodes, who's writing it, the scripts, who's adapting it, if that is that going to be a big name or not. And then, of course, Villeneuve, who he decides to bring in. A lot of people are already asking for Roger Deakins to come back and work. I'm not sure if Roger Deakins has ever really worked in television, especially at like a high-profile project like this one. So I see lots of Emmy and Golden Globe potential here. So very, very cool.
Just speaking of all those talented people, I'm curious with the Denny and Jake reunion, if that means Donnie Moe is going to be involved as well. Donald Moat on the hair and makeup stuff.
That's funny you mentioned. I mean, I was talking to him after this news came out. I said, "Hey man, I think you might need to return to television," because he's done a little bit of work in the past, but he's mostly been doing films as of late. And he was like, he said I was just on FaceTime with Timmy. And I
was casual.
he was saying just the same thing, and I was like, I think he might be onto something. So, I think Donald picks plenty of great projects. It wouldn't surprise me if he wants to work with Denny again and with Jake. And he loves Jake. They have a great relationship. So, yeah, the cast, the crew, it's all going to be awesome. We already know that it's HBO. They never miss. At least, especially with these limited series where they can really concentrate and just quickly get something done. So, very, very exciting, especially as a Villeneuve stan, if you will, if you want to go there.
Oh, you're definitely a Villeneuve stan. There's no if you want to go there. It's guaranteed. But we got a full podcast to do, so we can't talk. We could, but we can't talk about Denny all day. So let's get into some trailers from the past week or so.
Oh yes.
Starting with one that just actually came out today that we are recording. That is a movie that you just informed me about like last week or so. I didn't even know this was a thing. The Midnight Sky, coming to Netflix from director George Clooney. It's the post-apocalyptic tale of a man named Augustine, a lonely scientist in the Arctic, as he races to stop Sully and her fellow astronauts from returning home to a mysterious global catastrophe. It's got George Clooney, Felicity Jones, Kyle Chandler. It's coming to Netflix December 23rd with a limited theatrical release next month or in December as well. This looks exciting. This is kind of, I mean, we had George Clooney in Gravity, so he's been in space before. He looks to be earthbound this time, but just sort of this sci-fi apocalyptic kind of vibe coming from them. It looks very exciting, I would say.
Yeah, I dig the premise. I'm a sucker for science fiction, as everyone I think knows at this point. Great cast, and George Clooney is directing, of course. I think that's always exciting, and I think this could be a contender for certain things. I think this might be something along, especially in a limited year, if we're talking awards potential. I could see this sneaking in for maybe like visual effects or sound or even something.
I'm curious, just design. Like with the Netflix, like being a movie coming straight to Netflix, this was one that was in-house at Netflix, right? Not something that was then sold off to Netflix.
Yeah.
So I'm curious just to see like if there are limitations with like visuals or anything like that, because this is like being sci-fi, being outer space, something that's so likely like VFX heavy.
Yeah, I would say probably not, especially with George Clooney at the helm. I think he gets a lot of clout in that regard. And I think even with something, we could look at an example of The Irishman, which was from the ground up at Netflix. They spent a ton of money on that movie. Crazy CG work for the de-aging, of course, and that got an Oscar nomination. And then something like Bong Joon-ho's Okja, which was another ground up at Netflix. Awesome creature work in that movie with CG. So I think this will be pretty legit with regards to that. I actually have not seen the trailer. I don't want to watch it. Just because I don't know.
You take that approach a lot, which I'm like the complete opposite of like, gimme. So
well, it's a good. I do that for some, and others I absolutely have to watch them right away. And I think like I've seen everything else on this list, but I know this one. I don't know much about it yet. I think I like to keep it that way. I think maybe it'll surprise me more. But this could be a very legit like sci-fi drama, and I think that's really cool. The one thing, and this has no bearing on the quality of the movie or how I think how good it could be. This very vaguely reminds me of the Cloverfield paradox. because they're like out in space and then they try coming back and it's like, oh no, we can't, like, we're not communicating, or like there's a disaster going on and we're like stuck on the spaceship or like the space station type thing. So it's just funny because those are both Netflix movies. They're both sci-fi, like similar scenarios, but
I think it might be better than that because I
think-
didn't see it, but I know that was god awful.
It was awful. So yeah, no, I definitely don't have those expectations. I have much higher ones for this. So
I will say, if you haven't seen the trailer, maybe you've at least seen a photo, but George Clooney has a pretty sweet Oscar Isaac style, like salt and pepper beard going on with the shaved head. So
yeah, he looks badass,
it's exciting. Yeah.
He looks great. And then we have talking about Netflix, another big, even bigger awards contender coming out in December. Should be going to streaming on December.
It's going to be a good couple weeks with everything coming out around Christmas time.
No question. Yeah, especially from other streamers that combined with what Netflix is putting out. But this is going to be huge for a number of reasons. First off, it's called Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. It's an adaptation of an August Wilson play, one of the greatest playwrights. If you're familiar with Fences, the Denzel Washington film from a few years ago, that was another August Wilson play. And I think this is mainly catching a lot of attention right now for a very obvious reason, Zach. And what is that?
Well, this will be the final performance of the late, great Chadwick Boseman. Obviously, as we all know, he passed. But this is the final performance of him. He is co-starring with Viola Davis here as Levi. I don't know. I think it's Levi.
Yeah.
Levi. But everything that we've seen from photos to now this trailer, he looks incredible. Viola Davis had a quote, I believe today, saying that it's like the perfect curtain call for him on his career, on his legacy. So very, very much excited to see that. The attention, like you mentioned, is a lot for that, but there's also plenty of other reasons. She is basically, everyone's calling it a wrap already for her winning Best Actress at the Oscars, with based off her performance and what people expect to see there. So a lot of great stuff going on here, but I think there's also some news tied into this with the Chadwick attention that shakes up the Oscars picture. The fact that Netflix announced that they'll be campaigning him as a lead actor, which kind of people were questioning, is he lead, is he supporting? Because obviously, as Ma Rainey, Viola Davis is the lead. So, but they're campaigning him as the co-lead. So that shakes up people's predictions for Best Supporting. It's like, is Chadwick going to get the posthumous Best Lead Actor? So just everything just got a lot cloudier with that news.
Yeah. And I think regardless of the acting stuff, I think this movie has a lot of potential just like across the board, really. I mean, the trailer looks beautiful. They've clearly put a lot of time and effort into the production value, the production design, the costumes, the hair and makeup. I mean, Viola looks almost unrecognizable at times. It just looks like a really great, crisp, like period drama, but with some musical numbers, it seems like, thrown in, and I'm really excited for it. But yeah, that is going to be interesting to see. It's just the Best Actor like category right now is just so like unbelievably stacked, and not just stacked, but stacked with performances from Netflix.
They're competing against themselves.
Delroy Lindo, has been like the talk basically since June, and for good reason. I mean, he was amazing in The Five Bloods and deserves a nomination, in my opinion. But of course, then you still have Gary Oldman coming down the pipeline with Mank, and the Trial of the Chicago 7 was in the discussion for a little while as far as who was going to be Best Supporting Actor, who was going to be Best Actor, they're going to go lead, and all that. Now it has been finally confirmed Netflix is going to just throw them all in for supporting, which I think is the right call.
I'm wondering if that played into they were moving Chadwick so they could do all Trial of the Chicago 7 as supporting.
I hate to say it, but I feel like you're probably onto something, which just pisses me off.
They were just like strategizing how they could get the most nominations to boost up the clout.
Yeah, and I think another thing that people have pointed out, probably rightfully to an extent, even though I do think that basically they're saying, okay, Chadwick Boseman was very limited in The Five Bloods in his role, but he was very good. So they're saying, well, maybe they can sneak him in for 2 nominations this year. I don't know.
It would
Objectively,
be truly wild if it's like all Netflix for this category.
there's so many great supporting performances from male actors this year. I don't think I would necessarily put Chadwick's up there with from what I've seen and what I know is like still to come.
For lead actor or supporting?
For supporting, because
The Five Bloods.
The Five Bloods, yeah. I think if he hadn't passed away, I don't think this would even be like a discussion that would be being had, just because he's in that movie like so little. And that movie has like lost a lot of steam like over the last few months because it came out so early. I think even Delroy Lindo, I think, is probably at risk of even getting a nomination just because there's so much else coming out still.
Right.
But yeah, it's a messy situation. I think Chadwick is going to get a nomination no matter what happens. Whether or not he gets 2 nominations or whether or not he wins, this is going to be interesting to see it all play out. He certainly has a strong chance in both regards, and I don't think anyone's going to complain if he wins. But
definitely not.
I'm excited.
And
for
it seems
movie.
like it's like, I'm sure there would be like the cynical people out there who kind of have that, oh, he just won because he died kind of mindset.
Right.
But I mean, like you meant with The Five Bloods, he isn't in it much, but when he is, he's fantastic. And then from what we've seen from this, it seems to be just an all-time performance from him.
Right.
So I think that regardless if he were to get nominated and win or whatever it happens, it's all very well deserved. So
I agree. I
wouldn't think that there's any sort of pity or sympathy votes going his way.
Right. But we have more brand new trailers still that have come out in last week. Now this is Walt Disney,
not Pixar,
Animation Studios, responsible for, of course, Zootopia, Wreck-It Ralph, Frozen, Moana. They are bringing to life for the first time a Southeast Asian, I guess you could call her princess, because that's what all the like women that are over at Disney, they just kind of all file them under princess, but she's a warrior. And this is in a kind of reimagined Earth, Zach, isn't it?
Yes. So this is for a trailer for Raya and the Last Dragon. The little synopsis is that in a realm known as Lumandra, a reimagined Earth inhabited by an ancient civilization, a warrior named Raya is determined to find the last dragon. So obviously there's some sort of fantastical mysticism, magic creatures, all of that going on here. It's starring Kelly Marie Tran and Awkwafina, finally getting some justice for the horrendous stuff that she undertook, Kelly Marie Tran, during The Last Jedi. Disney's finally, hopefully, trying to make up for all of that, but that's a completely different discussion. Don't need to get into that now. But this looks like a lot of fun. I mean, it looks very, first of all, like the background that you mentioned, the Southeast Asian setting, storyline, all influences, all of that is something that Disney hasn't ever really explored too much. So that's something completely new. We saw the Pacific Islander kind of story with Moana, and that was tremendous success, a completely new world for them to build and explore. So to do that, I mean, they really haven't. I know everybody talks about Disney, Pixar, and all that when you think of like Disney animation, but like the Disney animation studios with Frozen, with Wreck-It Ralph, with Moana, all the ones that you've mentioned, they've been incredible as well. So I mean, I have full confidence in this being something that's equally up there.
Agree. And there's it has everything you want. It has some beautiful animation, some cool action, a really unique twist, and very heavily inspired culture and civilization that they're basically reconstructing from real life myths and cultures. Kelly Marie Tran is, as you said, playing Raya, and then Awkwafina, I guess, is going to be playing the titular Last Dragon. And then there's, of course, a cute little animal
that turns very large.
Sidekick buddy, that ends up being very large by I guess what would be the start of the story. So it has everything you could want in a Disney animated movie, and I'm excited to see something a little bit different come out of that studio. So that's going to be pretty cool, I think. Hopefully we can see it sooner rather than in a theater.
I will say that when they sort of, I groaned a little bit when the cute little creature happened, because it's like, okay, well, there's the obvious, like, there's the Olaf, there's what we're selling to the kids here. That's like the new plush toy that everybody's going to get. So then it was fun to see that they're like, okay, you think that, which I'm sure there will be, but then it turns to like the huge, lazy kind of cute, I guess, but not as just like straight up in your face, like, go buy this stuffed animal.
Yeah, I agree for sure. I think it'll be pretty cool, and it subverts our expectations. Talking about The Last Jedi.
Heck yeah! I was thinking that, but I didn't want to bring it up because I didn't want to work you up over there.
No, and finally we have a limited series. This is not at HBO. This is going to be at Amazon, and it's what Barry Jenkins, the acclaimed, basically legendary filmmaker behind Moonlight and If Beale Street Could Talk, he's taking on TV. TV in quotes, and it is the Underground Railroad project that he's been working on for a while. Some cool promo shorts essentially were dropped.
Right. Not really a trailer by any means. It's just the some shots of what looks like a train station or some sort of
underground
some sort of like
station.
Okay, hush. I don't need any sass for you over there. But it looked very beautiful in general, and of course you've got like the Nicholas Breitel, his longtime collaborator, their incredible score, just people say signature Barry Jenkins move of just having actors staring into the camera, whether it's in Moonlight or in Beale Street. That's just something that he does quite often, and it just has like this way of getting to you. So we don't know anything really. There's a little bit of a synopsis. A young woman named Cora makes an amazing discovery during her attempt to break free from slavery in the Deep South. But like these didn't really give away anything of what could possibly be going on. It was just like a minute and a half of like beauty, really, that you just kind of got to be like, wow, I can tell that Barry Jenkins did this, even though there's like no dialogue here or anything.
Right. I think it does a perfect job of showing just enough to get people excited and amped up. I mean, as you said, it has the Barry Jenkins feel. It has Nicholas Britell's incredible music. And then James Laxton, cinematographer on Moonlight and If Beale Street Could Talk, both beautiful, incredible looking movies, is doing the cinematography on this limited series with Barry Jenkins. So it's a reteam of that dream duo and trio. And I think that it did, again, just the right amount, got me excited, and I have really no idea what it's about in its core. I mean, I don't know how many episodes this is going to be. It is limited, so I would assume, again, that kind of range of 7, 8, 9, maybe. But I can't wait. Hopefully we get this, again, sooner rather than later. Now that they're showing off some stuff, I would think that it'll be not too far off. But who knows? Maybe early 2021 or something like that.
Yeah, just, again, not much to go off of, but what we do know and have seen looks incredible, and just the name alone there is enough to build hype. You could just say it's a Barry Jenkins project and don't need to know anything else. But that is the last of our trailers, teasers, if you will. But a bit more news here. Our last category before we get into our random category is superhero news. There's one that's significantly more exciting than the other one. This first one, though, is just like audible groan for 30 seconds. Jared Leto's Joker is returning to do some reshoots for Zack Snyder's Justice League, aka the Snyder Cut for HBO Max. Now, remember, Jared, I hope that the Snyder Cut stands don't come after us. They're a very vicious audience, so hopefully I won't put any hashtags in Twitter. So maybe if they're just like deep listeners, if they're true fans, then they'll hear this. But
God,
Jared Leto was not in the original Justice League. He was in Suicide Squad, and now he's coming to do this. So I think this is a discussion that Johnny and I have had over and over again, that this is like, I am all for the aspect of Snyder Cut that is, okay, he got gypped out of having his vision on screen, so let's go back and let him do the real deal. This is what he did. Here it is. But now they're just dumping money into this, and he's just like, okay, well, this is where everything went wrong, so I'm going to change this, and we're going to add this, and he's making something entirely new. This is not like this is not some Snyder cut that was created and then not released. Like that would be a completely different thing. You know, this is just like, okay, well, I'm just making this more and more ridiculous as things go on. We also know that Joe Manganiello, who is Deathstroke, appeared in the post-credit scene of the original. He is now coming back for reshoots to be in the full movie as well. So it's just all over the place.
And the Deathstroke news seems to be a little less solid than the Joker Leto news, just because that was like reported all over the place. I think what I read from the Collider story that was talking about Deathstroke showing up in this, they mentioned like, okay, Joe Manganiello, like he dyed his hair like the same color that he had it in the original. And I mean, that makes sense. That lines up. How much
I'm more okay with that than Joker.
I'm way more okay with that.
I'm like not even just because like that Joker was bad, but like because okay, this was at least had some sort of connection to the original product.
Yeah,
not just like bringing in a whole new thing.
Yeah, no, it makes more sense. It's connected better. I think Deathstroke, what we saw of him, I mean, he looked way better than Joker Leto. I think that's a great casting too. I mean, it was so ripe for a cool appearance, whether that was going to be in Ben Affleck's version of the Batman or if that was going to be in a solo movie or something. So his inclusion gets me a little more interested, but this stuff with Jared Leto's Joker, I just don't understand. I mean, I tweeted
like, who asked for more of that? You're about your tweet, yeah.
My tweet, I was like, is this just turning into like a charity project now? Like anyone
I was
who
referencing your poll about like people.
I did have a poll, yeah, and everyone was like, I mean, I can't remember how many people voted. It was a sizable amount. It was like hundreds of people, and they, I mean, it was vastly in favor of like, no, Joker Leto, it doesn't work. He's bad. He's awful, or at least mediocre, and not really worthy of him returning for any project, let alone being shoved into Justice League. I mean, I can't even imagine what the context is going to be. It's just very strange. And now there's also the slightest rumblings, probably not valid. I can't imagine this would go down, but of Margot Robbie appearing as Harley Quinn. I don't know if you saw that.
Oh my gosh, I did not see that. Please just
let
let it be, man.
And that hasn't been reported by anyone like reputable or anything. So that's just a very, very light rumor. But I hope that no one else gets added to this because it just seems it's just so far removed now from what even Zack Snyder intended to do in his movie.
The only thing that could potentially justify to me is like his Justice League was supposed to be 2 parts. So I'm like, the only thing is like maybe this was like some part of the vision for part 2 and he's just like working that in.
Yeah.
So maybe that's like the only benefit of the doubt, I guess, that I have. But
it's just so wild to me. Before we move on from this, you know.
Yeah, this is enough Snyder Cut for one episode.
But he must have like pitched it, you know. HBO approached him, Warner Brothers approached him and was like, hey, so what is it that you would want to do here? And, you know, there must have been like a script, or there must have been like an original script for his version of the movie. I mean, how much are they changing? How much are they writing?
It's just making up as they go, it sounds like.
I know. That's like what's so shocking. So I hope this is like somewhat redeemable or like somewhat good or interesting or like watchable. I don't know what to think. So, but as you said, moving on to something more exciting or interesting and hopefully good. Oscar Isaac, the man, the myth, the legend, the like geek god now. I mean, he's been in Star Wars. He's been in, which, you know, maybe didn't go as great as it could have gone. He was in the X-Men Apocalypse, which didn't go.
Definitely didn't go as great.
And he's playing Duke Leto Atreides in Denis Villeneuve's Dune, of course, which is like sci-fi magnum opus. And now he's going to be playing, reportedly, Moon Knight for the Disney Plus series. I don't know much about Moon Knight. I don't know if you've looked up more.
Neither do I. That's why I put this little description here. Because this is when I would typically turn it over to Jake for some in-depth analysis. But first of all, just like the casting in general, like Oscar Isaac, incredible actor, and he has that relationship with Disney, as tumultuous as it may have been in Star Wars. Obviously, for some reason, he's coming back, whether it's just money or because he likes the promise of this project. But just today, before we hopped on the podcast, Mohamed Diab was rumored to be directing. I guess it's not officially confirmed yet, but to direct this project. He's an Egyptian filmmaker, which ties in well with the subject matter here. He has maybe 2 official like movies that he's done, I want to say, based on his IMDb page. But quick little rundown of Mark Spector, aka Moon Knight. He was a Jewish American former U.S. Marine turned CIA agent. He was left for dead in the desert on a mercenary mission in Egypt, and while he's laying there dying, an idol of the Egyptian moon god Khonshu saved him and gave him his moon-based powers, which I don't know what moon-based powers are, but from what I read, he's like an expert fighter, pilot, marksman, detective, great in martial arts, hand-to-hand combat, all kinds of stuff like that. This is supposed to be like a very dark story, like the character itself. I know there's some like vampire connection as well, I believe. Just from like different comments that I was getting on Twitter, which we got quote tweeted by Boss Logic. That was pretty cool.
That was wild. I mean, just comment on that real quick. Like, I wonder how he came across our tweet.
Right. Like, I mean, we just did our typical, like, okay, somebody reports the news. We make a little capsule quote about it with the photo and tag them. And then for some reason, instead of seeing like whatever it was, Variety or Deadline, whoever reported it, he saw inside the film room and quoted it. So I was like, shout out to my guy, Boss Logic, come on the podcast.
Yeah. But yeah, I think I, again, don't know much about Moon Knight. He's been getting hyped up for several years now, just because it was kind of something that was rumbling, and people had been hearing things about. And I think at one point people were talking about it being maybe the next big Netflix Marvel show. Of course, that all went out the window, and now they're setting up shop at Disney Plus. Oscar Isaac, amazing actor. I'll watch a lot of stuff that he does, even if I may not care exactly for the subject matter or the role in particular. But I think this could be really cool. He sounds really badass. I've seen a lot of comparisons over the years when Moon Knight comes up. I think the main one I get that I've seen more than any other is probably Batman, but maybe even more violent and more deadly. And of course, he has these godlike powers to some extent, so that makes him even more powerful than a regular human. Whether or not Bruce Wayne is a regular human, we can talk about. But like, I think that is a very cool basis for this, and I think also the fact that he's explicitly Jewish. He has these Egyptian powers, and now you have a man, Oscar Isaac, has of Jewish descent, and now you have an Egyptian filmmaker directing it. I think it's just cool to see some of that representation, also, people of that culture,
and the fact that it's someone who is so like, I don't know anything about this director, about Mohamed Diab, like, but the fact that it's an interesting choice by Disney to give something that's supposedly so like hyped up, so beloved within Marvel. Yeah, it's exciting to see them give that to someone who's kind of like, it sounds like almost an up and comer.
Yeah, and I just last thing I'll add is I am so damn excited to see Oscar Isaac in like a huge like cape and mask and like a superhero outfit. Like, I think that's just going to be, because a lot of people even were kind of jockeying for him to be Batman when that casting was going down. I think he would have been a cool Batman. He's older, of course, older than Robert Pattinson for sure. But I think he can fit any superhero. You can mold him. So very, very exciting. One of my most anticipated Disney Plus series for sure, because I think they could take it a little bit darker, more brutal, and interesting route with this character. So yeah, definitely something to keep an eye on. We don't know when that's going to go in production. I don't know if that was reported at all. But I would surely in the next year or so. So maybe we'll get it, late 2021 or in 2022 at some point.
Yeah, I mean, they've got WandaVision supposedly coming this year. Falcon and the Winter Soldier still, Hawkeye, She-Hulk, Loki, all of those going on. So who knows when this will actually happen. But Johnny, the people want Borat. We've got a couple more pieces of news to get through. So let's hit these pretty quick. Most exciting of these, I would say, is the fact that it's a bidding war. Maybe, potentially, is No Time to Die on the market. The upcoming Bond 25. Apparently, there's been pressure for them to dump this, to get it on some sort of streaming service, whether that's Apple TV Plus, whether that's Warner Brothers on HBO, or who knows where this would end up. But supposedly $600 million, a lot of money. What are your thoughts here? Do you think it will happen? Is it going to end up somewhere for us to stream this Christmas?
Supposedly, Barbara Broccoli, who is the head producer on James Bond and has been in her family for years, is very adamant about not selling this movie. They're very adamant about keeping it, saving it for theaters whenever that can happen. But at some point, I don't know if it's really up to her. MGM definitely has a lot of pressure to get some sort of cash coming in and offload this in any way that works. And I think if Apple or Amazon is offering $600-700 million, that's certainly something you have to at least consider very seriously. I don't know, man. 50-50, I think. It could really go either way. I would not be surprised at all if it goes and gets sold in the next couple months or something. I also wouldn't be surprised if it stays. So something to keep an eye on. Look out.
Yeah, I mean, and also you mentioned this is sort of we'll go ahead and hit the delays that we were going to end news with, but this ties into it because of MGM. Respect, the Aretha Franklin biopic, was delayed from January 15, 2021 to August 13, 2021. And the Tomb Raider sequel, also MGM, has been delayed indefinitely. So those two, MGM's making moves, getting stuff moved out of the way, delayed. So it's even more pressure maybe to make a move to get Bond, to get something out there. They're really kind of emptying out the end of the year, the early 2021 timeline.
Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of delays, though, Ghostbusters Afterlife delayed from March 5th, 2021 to June 11th, 2021. And Candyman has a new date coming August 27, 2021. So I know we wish we had been seeing Candyman this month for spooky season, but at least we'll hopefully get to see it in a theater by then. But another couple quick things, 2 more pieces of news before we finally get to Borat. Sorry, guys, we'll never do a late podcast again because there's just too much to talk about. But, Johnny, this one makes you ecstatic. Fast and the Furious main franchise, not Hobbs and Shaw, is finally ending after F11. Who knows what it'll be called by then. But F9,
that's just what they're going to call it, F11.
It's we're just going down the keyboard now. It's F9, F10. But so F9 was supposed to come out this year, got moved to next year. So there's 2 movies. There's that one that's in the can that's ready to go. They're going to outer space. But 2 more movies to do after that. Same director is staying in charge. So they'll supposedly wrap that up. And then obviously they had the Hobbs and Shaw spinoff. So they made sure to emphasize that the main franchise was ending. So we'll see if anything else continues on. I assume they probably will, but I know that makes you very happy.
Real quick question on that. Yes or no? Will Gal Gadot come back and appear in any of these movies?
So, I mean, first of all, I have not seen any of them except I've seen the 4th one and I've seen Hobbs and Shaw. So I never saw anything with her in it. I don't even know what her character is. I know she was in it. I know Charlize is in it and she's supposed to be an F9, I believe. But why not bring everybody back for F11 and make it just go back to stealing VCRs in space?
Yeah, I mean, she's going to require a hefty paycheck, you got to imagine, but it would be I think it'd be wrong to not try to get a huge superstar back into the franchise as the last hurrah. But we'll see. Maybe she'll they'll do a solo spinoff as a prequel or something with her later on. But yeah, we'll see what happens with that. I'm not particularly excited or disappointed or anything. So
F11 is just going to be them all sitting around a table drinking Coronas while Vin Diesel says family.
You like shawarma?
That's all it is, man. Last piece of news. Adam Sandler, the Sandman.
You liar.
What?
I thought that was the last piece of news.
No. I said two more. This is the
Okay.
last piece of news. Adam Sandler, the Sandman. We're not talking Hubie Halloween. We're talking another Netflix production. He's getting back to his drama stuff, his Uncut Gems bag. It's an adaptation of Jaroslav Kalfar's novel, The Spaceman of Bohemia, which centers on an astronaut sent to the edge of the galaxy to collect mysterious ancient dust when he finds his earthly life falling to pieces. He turns to the only voice who can help him try to put his life back together, a creature from the beginning of time lurking in the shadows of his ship. So this is it's directed by the creators of Chernobyl, who were behind that miniseries for HBO. So this is if you read that description, this could easily be like a jokey Adam Sandler movie, but this is in fact like a very dramatic Adam Sandler production. So I'm excited. We both loved Uncut Gems. So just to kind of see him get in that dramatic bag once again is thrilling to me.
Yeah, that's always exciting because he does have a lot to offer as a performer. And this sounds like an interesting concept. Again, I'm a sucker for sci-fi. And to see the people who worked on Chernobyl come around and work on this says a lot. I mean, maybe there's a lot of promise for this movie. I'm looking forward to getting like images out of this and seeing like what tones of like any footage we get, sometime next year, I'm sure. But yeah, Netflix keeping their hands in the Sandman's bag.
All right. It's time for the Borat Subsequent Moviefilm review. Let's get down to it.
14 years ago, I released a movie film which brought great shame to Kazakhstan. But now I was instructed to return to Yankee Land to carry out secret mission. I go to America!
So, this movie kind of I would say this came out of nowhere, really. Like, there were rumors of like different Sasha stunts throughout the beginning of the year, and some footage and stuff, but did you know, was I just in the dark? This is obviously a sequel to 2006 Borat, but this was announced early October or late September, and then it just happened on Amazon on October 23rd before the election. That was their big push to get it out. But were you expecting this?
No. No, I wasn't expecting it. The first time I saw or heard anything that Borat is like a blast from the past, right? I mean, this was 14 years ago. But the very first time I saw anything, it was someone who just posted a random person, not verified or like a huge account or anything. They posted a video of them driving down the road, and they were recording it. It was Sacha Baron Cohen dressed as Borat driving like a convertible. And they recorded it and they posted it, and everyone's like, what he's doing Borat again. Is this like a skit, a commercial? What is this? And then it was very soon after that, it was reported, nope. Someone was digging around. They found out this is what's happening. A full new movie, legit sequel, very, very political, of course, even more so than the original, riding on the 2020 election here in the United States. And I think we got a trailer. When was the trailer? I feel like the trailer was just a little bit before the movie. I mean, it was sometime
right. This all happened
maybe?
like at the very end of September. Because I had written my October streaming guide for this site and then had to go back and add this in. So it was it was like weeks ahead of the release. So that was very again, out of the blue, out of nowhere, but a welcome surprise for me. Let's talk. I know like you mentioned off the top, we've both recently watched the original one. So kind of the connection there, like I had never seen it. I had seen clips and bits and pieces in it, and I knew the gags and very nice. Like I knew all that stuff, but I hadn't actually seen it from start to finish. So I went back and watched that earlier in the week ahead of the release of this one. And it was hysterical. Like even the fact that it was from 2006, it still had me rolling. I know you have your experience as a 12-year-old or however old you were, very young, checking it out and being scarred by it, but
10,
laughing your head off all the time. But I really enjoyed that. And then to see this one, I guess we'll get into some more in-depth stuff as we get into the review a little bit. But this Rotten Tomatoes has this at an 85% critic score, 71% audience score. For me, you know, I think for Borat, it's only right. I gave it a 69. Very nice. But
wow, wow, wow.
It's so fun. Like even the fact, I still think that the first one was better than this, but I still really enjoyed this one.
No, I agree. I think it's tough. They're very
different, surprisingly.
They're very different. I think that this was kind of I don't know. I feel like this might have been the only way to do a sequel to the original. Just because it's very different time periods at this point. I mean, 2006 is like the height of the war on terror. And, you know, it was kind of poking fun at all the stuff that was going on in America with regards to like the Middle East and, you know, Borat just kind of inserting himself into it was very fluid. It felt very like organic, off cuff, like, you know.
The first one is very much like a Jackass or something. Like
it is much more like a Jackass,
like,
yeah.
Just like sketches, scenes like stuck together across America. And then this one obviously has this one, like you mentioned, it's I agree, it's the best way to do this because of something they address in the movie of him. Everyone on the streets knows the man with the mustache and the gray suit. Like they know that's Borat. You can't just do his same gimmicks without being recognized and having the same effect. So this one has more of like a narrative approach. There's more like acting versus just like reacting by strangers. So it's a very different feel to them. And I think I preferred the kind of more, like you said, organic versions better. But this one brings in a nice twist with the daughter, with Maria Bakalova as Tutar, his daughter. So that's fun. Let's get into here. Little plot before we get into too much, because like I said, this one does have a bit of a plot. So following the events of the first movie, the documentary comes out and it brings shame. Borat brings shame to his country, to Kazakhstan. So he's sentenced to a lifetime of hard labor in prison. And then finally 2020 rolls around and the premier of Kazakhstan invites him out to potentially redeem himself. He has to go to America with his 15-year-old daughter. He has to go and deliver a present to Mike Pence, to the vice premier of America, to try and earn, I guess, clout with Donald Trump, who has made these relationships with the strongest men in the world, like Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un, and the premier of Kazakhstan feels left out. So Borat is sent off to America on this grand quest of trying to redeem himself, or else he gets killed if he doesn't successfully pull this off. So once he gets here, obviously, in 2020, in the midst of a presidential election, in the midst of a global pandemic, shenanigans ensue.
Oh, yeah. Shenanigans surely do ensue. And I think, as you said, this is much more plot-y than the first one, particularly because the daughter is involved and she's introduced. And it's kind of gives her this big arc. And it gives Borat an arc as well. And the arcs are interrelated. And I thought that was kind of almost like a double-edged sword in some ways, because it was simultaneously like the best part of the movie and also what I thought kind of like held it back from being as funny or like as good as the original. Because even though this one isn't as organic or maybe not as funny or just like just very like I was saying, like off the cuff, like it seems like there's hardly any planning other than just setting up a situation and then seeing what happens. But I was impressed with kind of how they took the characters and evolved them from beginning to end, and just how their relationship evolved. And it was heartwarming. The first one isn't really heartwarming. It's just kind of very like legit funny, like through and through, and insensitive and like offensive and all these things. And this one is certainly offensive and certainly ballsy, and like it takes risks, and it does gross out things, and it does offensive things. And it's usually Borat and his daughter together doing something. And that always makes for funny moments. It's just cool to see this newcomer, at least for an English language film, kind of making like such a strong impression, especially with her like comedic timing and just her physical comedy and things like that. Especially paired with a huge veteran name like Sacha Baron Cohen, who has been doing this his entire life and is like twice her age. Because this girl is, I want to say, girl. This woman, Maria Bakalova, is, I want to say, 24 years old.
24,
according to her IMDb. So that's wild.
Posing as a 15-year-old.
Posing as a 15-year-old. Yeah.
That's even more like impressive, I guess. The fact that she's convincingly playing. That.
She was pretty convincing. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess this is a spoiler review. There's not really much. I feel like, first of all, tons of people have already seen this movie. It's been out for a week now, so no spoiler warning here. I guess you've been warned, but the premise of like the giving the gift, he's supposed to give a Jimmy the Monkey, who's the premier actor in Kazakhstan or premier porn star. So he's supposed to give that to the vice pussy grabber in Mike Pence, but instead Tutar climbs into the crate and ends up killing him and eating him on the journey, which they go by ship and travel around the world to get to America. Mm-hmm. And then so he comes up with the new idea to give Tutar as the offering to Mike Pence because he's such a ladies' man that he can't be left alone with other women in a room. Classic spin on that Mike Pence nonsense. But it's just, I guess we've kind of done the comparison to the original. We've done the narrative discussion, but kind of let's kind of go through some of these like moments that really stuck out to you. Like we mentioned, like the different pranks and stuff. What were some of your favorite moments or the most outrageous or what really caught you off guard in this new version?
Okay. I think the one that was hands down, I watched this with my girlfriend, like I said, and so it was cool because I had seen the original, she hadn't, and then we were both experienced this one for the first time. So not knowing what to expect, I would say the part that freaked us out the most and like had us like covering our eyes or just like the worst secondhand embarrassment was from it was like a banquet scene.
the debutante ball?
Yeah, the debutante ball where they go in and they do it's like I think it's set up to be like a father-daughter dance or something. Like there's fathers around.
Yeah, so basically like the debutante society, like all of that is like it's introducing the young women to society. That's like the history of like the debutante ball. And it's like a very Southern tradition, very like rich white people tradition, to like, and very like, I guess misogynistic sort of in like
it sure is.
We are presenting our women to the world now. They're like ready to be wifed up, like basically.
Well, yeah, we should also mention that like the mic'd up moments they have before like this dance goes down, like there's some very like disturbing and like the comments that are made by the people that are at this ball, like it's basically like almost like a sex or like pedophile like party like gathering.
Right. So the one of the things that really stands out beyond the whole idea, the whole like big thing here is that they do this disgusting dance and Tutar pulls up her dress because it's her moon blood, aka her period, and she like flashes everyone. But the stuff that you're mentioning is even worse because it's like that stuff was orchestrated, but what the reactions that they get are the scary stuff of like these old white men, the fathers in front of their wives, in front of their daughters. The one that says, Borat asks how much for his daughter, like how much he would pay for Tutar, and the guy's like, oh, $500. Like he's like, it's like prostitution. Like obviously nothing actually happens, but like sort of that mindset and all that. And my favorite is that it's the daughter who turns to her father and is like, that's fucking gross.
Yeah.
And like, and like on the website, I did this article, the most shocking moments from Borat. And like, you can see through the web traffic, like how people get there. And it's like one of the top searches is like Borat 2 girl fucking gross. Like that's the search. So there are people who are looking to find this through that. So that's obviously funny. A scene that stood out.
Yeah, for sure. So that was kind of the one most memorable as far as, well, that, and of course the level of like controversy and like just the stuff that was going on at the end with Rudy Giuliani.
Yeah, I think like that's obviously the biggest thing, but like I didn't even discuss that in my article because it's just like it's been discussed so much. Like I'm already tired of talking about that. Like
right.
Whether you think he was or wasn't, like obviously that's the climax of the movie, but like it's just like already so exhausting talking about that. And
well, for me, I agree with that. I'm not going to talk it to death right now, but like I had heard all about it. I'd seen images, I read descriptions, and then I went and watched it, and it still like gave me
watching
like,
it, seeing it is very different. Seeing it is very different than just hearing about it. Like the disgusting factors like taken to the next level.
Yeah, I mean he's just like the build up, and you know he's like touching her and she's touching him, and it's like they're drinking alcohol during this interview, I think.
Right, that's the thing. Like Sasha had a quote that was like, no matter about tucking in the shirt or whatnot, like if you think his other behavior was acceptable, that's an even bigger problem. The pat on the back or the different just creepy comments and stuff like that. That
like why would you don't go into a reporter like no matter what. I mean, you have to have some sort of conduct. I mean, you're one of the people that works for the president of the United States for one thing, but you have to like you can't go into like a hotel, sit down in the bed, you know, touch the reporter like on her back, and you're like laying on the bed, like whatever you're doing, you're drinking. Like it's just like how does this? And not only that, but the fact that it all went down, they set it up so well and they executed it so well with the cameras and the mics. Sacha Baron Cohen comes in at one point.
I had read that there was like they had created the hotel room, so there was like a closet, basically a hidden closet that he was hiding in, watching on a monitor, so that he knew when to like bust in to kind of control the situation. Yeah, and that Giuliani's like security team had come in to scan the room beforehand to make sure, just out of like a normal precaution, and they weren't able to find or notice the hidden room that he was in. So imagine if there had been something more
like dangerous,
more devious at hand than a Sacha Baron Cohen prank. Like
right, no, 100%. What to you did this article, of course, but like I mentioned the debutante ball. What was like most disturbing or like disgusting or like really like shocked you, I guess?
I think not like from that perspective, like the shocking or just like horrified at America, that kind of stuff. I would say when Sasha's in disguise as like a country singer at the March for Our Rights rally, which is a gun advocate group, he goes on stage and has written this fake song called the Chinese Virus Song that he wrote while quarantining with like a QAnon conspiracy theory team. And it's like the lyrics are like injecting Dr. Fauci with the Wuhan flu or chopping up journalists like the Saudis do. Like Nazi salutes are in the crowd, people toting guns, waving Trump flags. Like it's terrifying. And then even scarier, the fact that what he posted today on Twitter was like the exit from that when they kind of I read an article that was talking about like how the people like once they caught on and like realized that they were being trolled, basically the response turned nasty, and he posted a video of them fleeing the stage and they had an ambulance set up as their getaway vehicle. And so like he gets in that, as you can see on his Twitter, and they're trying to like break in and pull the doors open, and he's dressed up in overalls and a flannel and a cowboy hat with a big beard as this countryman. But then he's like, let's go, get out of here. Like in his posh British accent. Like it's like that's how you know it's serious.
Oh yeah, for sure.
When he breaks character. Cause like we've heard stories of him like wearing a bulletproof vest so that he can like, he literally risks his life for this stuff. Yeah. Which is like ultimate respect for him to like have that commitment to his work.
Yeah, I certainly think that would be one of the scenes where he was wearing one.
Especially at a gun rights rally. Like,
yeah, I mean, when you have that many guns around and you don't know, you're trying to offend people and going to piss them off. I mean, Americans are wont to let off a few rounds in public and at mass gatherings. So Yeah, it's scary, man. Definitely a lot of respect. That if anyone hasn't seen that tweet, that short little video he posted earlier today, definitely go check out Sacha Baron Cohen's Twitter, because it's wild, and I like seeing the behind the scenes, and because in the movie they don't break the illusion of the story, and they don't show off usually too much of the like the crazy stuff that goes down, or like how they get from point A to point B and things like that.
Right. Another one that was just like a great scene to me. Not necessarily, there was one big shock to it, but just the whole, when he first tries to get to Mike Pence, like he goes to the Conservative Political Action Committee conference, he's undercover. He has to figure out how to break into this room full of Republicans, this convention. And so he goes in full KKK robes, pointed hood and everything, just waltzes right in the front door, like gets a few weird glances, but nobody thinks to stop him or anything like that. Like the fact that's normal.
They didn't even say anything to him.
Right. Like he
like
gets,
no comments, right?
He does that and gets in. And then once he gets into the bathroom, he changes into another disguise, and it's a full, very, very intense Donald Trump get up with like a fake mask and fat suit and everything. And he throws Tutar over his shoulder and goes to offer. He interrupts the speech, which hilarious that the speech is Mike Pence talking about only 14 cases of coronavirus. We're ready for anything. I promise you that. LOL. We know how that went. But the fact that he's able to stop him and like get that attention and work up the crowd. One person punches him from the crowd, and like they start like a 4 more years chant or something. He's like 1 million more years. Yes, I love you. Like that was a good one as well.
Nah, that was wild. And if you go and Google it or look it up, you can find news articles, at least one that I saw reposted on Twitter recently. From I think this event was in February or maybe January, and it says man dressed as Trump like interrupts the conference, whatever it was, where Mike Pence was at. So people, it was reported at the time when it happened, and then no one knew that it was Sacha Baron Cohen or knew that it was
right.
Borat too.
It's funny putting all the pieces together, because like same thing with the Giuliani thing. Like he reported that was in July, I believe, and like he called the police on that, and there was like a report and everything, and a story was written, no Sacha Baron Cohen connection or anything, but
right, yeah.
But like just to see that go back and be like, also the people that were in the movie going back, and because they didn't know what they were in for really until seeing it now. But I've read, like, this is one thing that's interesting to me, of just like the authenticity of it all, like reading about how this works. Because like I read that the debutante ball, those people were paid to be there under the impression that it was for filming for like a movie, not like a Borat movie, but I don't know if it was a documentary or something else. The Instagram model who talks to Tutar about being the sugar baby, she thought this was part of a documentary. Janice, the babysitter, thought it was a documentary about like mail order brides and stuff like that. Like, wow. So it's funny, like learning about this, like how everything is orchestrated. And like, I believe Sacha Baron Cohen had like paid for or rented to set up the stage at the gun rights rally as well. So he like helped make that happen. So it's like not all of this is like organic, like you mentioned. And I'm sure it was the same way with the first one. Like they helped put stuff into place. But like one of the questions is like the 2 guys he quarantines with, they help drive the plot, which is not real. Like the whole getting back together with Tutar, finding her and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like, were those guys in on it? They have to have been in some aspect. Like they don't just, unless they live under a rock, they should know who Borat is, like, are they really these QAnon conspiracy theory guys, or are they acting?
Yeah. No, I definitely agree. And I think it's really cool to hear those details and to know, because when you're watching it, you're not totally sure, like, okay, is this like scripted or like
right? There was another thing,
like, or is this real? Like, what's the difference?
There was another thing with the Giuliani scene. It was breaking it down like frame by frame of just like talking about how strategic editing works. Cause it's like, okay, so he has his truck and he like Borat is like racing to get there, and he like races down the street, pulls up, parks out front. And it's like, you can tell from that he is in San Francisco. and they were supposedly in Manhattan. That's where the hotel was. So that part pulling up out front was shot in San Francisco. Then when he's running in disguise through the streets, you can see on the building in the back that was actually shot in like Romania or something like that. Like it wasn't even in America. And then running through the lobby, that was actually XYZ building, not the one that they were supposed to be in. And then like obviously the stuff in the hotel room happened, but like saying like the whole like dramatic entry where he sneaks into the hotel, like that's all not as it appears in the movie if you actually like stop and break it down. So I mean, obviously you can't expect everything in this movie to be 100% accurate, but I don't think that's really the point.
No, for sure. It's just, if anything, it makes me appreciate it more, like respect it more, because it's so much more complicated than you realize.
It seems so seamless, but it's actually
exactly
not.
And at the end of the day, we still get some amazing real stuff that happens at real events and with real people, like people in political positions or high up the social ladder, and these things can have real ramifications. So it is part jackass, part mockumentary, part like comedy, like sketch show,
father daughter drama.
So no, I love this kind of thing. Even though I wasn't crazy about this movie, I did still like it. I thought it was good. I can appreciate this stuff, and I would like to see Sacha Baron Cohen do more, even if it's not another Borat at some point, maybe in the next 5, 10, 15 years or something. Maybe another character, maybe a character he's already done before, but he's just a genius. He's just so funny, and the way he's, does, again, put his life on the line and put his body in positions where I wouldn't.
Right.
But it's very, very interesting, and we'll see if there's any awards potential out of any of this. I mean, Golden Globes.
The original one was he won for Best Actor, right, for Golden Globes, and
yeah, I believe so.
He was Oscar nominated for original screenplay. Wow. I know people have hyped up the prosthetics, the hair and makeup, all that has to go in.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I would certainly, based on what we've seen so far this year, and like what's on the table, I would throw it in there. I mean, so.
Yeah, it's so funny always to see something as ridiculous as this. Like when you think Oscars, you think like prestigious, like kind of elitist movies, and then to throw like a Borat in there to get that sort of, who knows what the Oscars will actually look like actual event wise,
right,
when they roll around. But to get a Borat performance, or at least something Borat related at the Golden Globes, that's probably more up its alley. But
yeah, agreed.
To get him on stage there would be great. But like you said, I enjoyed it. Didn't like it as much as the first one, but I still thought it was definitely worth the watch. And millions of people have seen it as well and had the same reaction, other than the president. So
yeah, and we got to shout out one special lady in this film, the MVP. Zach, who is it?
Janice? Is that who you're talking about?
Absolutely.
Janice, the babysitter, is incredible. She did not know. I've read about her. She did not know about like obviously what she was getting into. Like I said, she thought this was like a documentary about a woman who was like being groomed for an older man, and she's teaching Tutar the whole time, like, no, you don't need to get plastic surgery. You're smart. Women can do this. Women can do that. Like, this is America. You can do whatever you want. You don't need to listen to your father. And she's just like so genuine and touching and wholesome that apparently she's been sort of upset about, now that she knows what she was actually into, and that she was only paid like $3,000, I believe, as a part of it. And so there's a GoFundMe with the goal of getting $100,000 for her. But I think she definitely deserves it after being like, obviously not the main point of this with the comedy, but the heart and soul of the emotions of this movie.
She does deserve a lot. I mean, she seems to be a great human being, and she was very supportive. And I mean, it felt, when I was watching those scenes, especially the one where she's in the car talking to Tutar and giving like this really like genuine advice, it felt like I was watching like a TLC show about that kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like that kind of documentary. Or
right. It's like in this movie full of like terrible people that are being exposed, to have someone as genuine and wholesome as her is a nice subversion of expectations.
And that's a good way to send off that review, I think.
Definitely. So if you haven't seen it yet, it's worth the watch. Again, we talked about it all, so it's probably spoiled, but it's different seeing it on screen versus just reading about it, hearing about it, what have you.
Yeah.
So we would both recommend it, and definitely check out the first one if you haven't revisited it since 2006. But that is it for this episode. A long episode, but a good one. Lots of great stuff here. Thank you all for listening. Really means a lot to us. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you all very much. Please, in addition to rating the podcast, go follow us on all social media, including Twitter. We are almost at 1,000, everyone. It's going to be quite the occasion when we hit that, and we have some special things planned, so help us boost that. Instagram, TikTok, give us a like on Facebook, and subscribe on YouTube, of course. You can find all those accounts at Inside Film Room.
And like Johnny mentioned, rate and review the podcast wherever you get it. Be sure to subscribe. We're on Apple, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, Google, Amazon, literally wherever you get your podcasts. We are there. Inside the Film Room. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, whatever you want to do there. And come back next week, because we're doing another touching father-daughter movie. We had all those movies last week. We're spacing them out since there's nothing new. On the Rocks, Rashida Jones, Bill Murray, Apple TV Plus. Check it out. Burn that free trial. I promise it's worth it. And come back and hear us next time. Talk to you then.